Hello and welcome back to episode number 46 of the Wedding Business Podcast. And I'm really excited today because I am joined by club member Freya. Welcome to the podcast, Freya.
Hello, Faye. Hello, everybody else listening.
Now, people in the club will know who you are, but for people listening who don't, tell us, who is Freya? What does she do?
So I am Freya. I am a branding and wedding stationery designer. I have been for 10 years. I run De Quince, which is like a luxury wedding stationery company, and the Brand New Studio Limited, which is more corporate. So I do branding and website design on that side. And I work in my garden in an office in Oxfordshire.
Lovely. And so how did your business come about? How did you get into the world of weddings? Because I'm yet to ask someone this question and they tell me, I always dreamed of working in the wedding industry. There's always a slightly convoluted way in.
Yeah, it's a long one. It's not quite I always dreamed, but it does start back when I was at primary school, actually.
Wow.
Not necessarily weddings, but I always used to create like membership packs for my friends. We used to have clubs and I'd do little packs with ID cards and like coded messages that they had to decipher, put little pens and pencils in there. So looking back, my love of putting kind of incredible packages together for people probably started there. And then my career followed a design route. So I studied product and furniture design in London, completely different to weddings, and ended up working for various design consultancies in London for 10 years. If you've ever been to Bath or Islington, the structures with the maps on in the street.
Oh, yes, yeah.
So I drew all of the maps in Bath. All the little buildings, all the so that was my job, like designing structures with maps on for a long time. And then kind of, I mean, I've always been creative, and it was only a matter of time really before friends started asking, can you do my wedding stationery? And I was like, yeah, okay, that sounds fun. Like, as everyone, like, it wasn't my wedding, it was friends' weddings, but yeah, there's always a funny way in, isn't there? Of
always.
It's never really a planned thing. Yeah, the recession hits, and kind of the design world in London, all the budgets were slashed, and it wasn't really a nice place to be. So I just bit the bullet and thought, I'm gonna be my own boss and start my own business. And so on Christmas Eve, I finished 10 years ago. And yeah, didn't look back really.
Oh, I love that it was on Christmas Eve. There's something like Love Actually about that.
Yeah, and it's my husband's birthday, Christmas Eve. So it's a good
How
day.
exciting.
A momentous date.
So let's talk about this whole starting the business then, because it's all lovely and jolly to have that vision of, oh, this is what it's going to be like. And of course, then in real life, after the grand exit, is that moment where it all sinks in and you think, oh crikey, there's quite a lot that I have to do here. And of course, this misconception of it, I say this to everyone, this overnight success thing. Tell us what your overnight success story was.
It would be great if it was overnight, wouldn't it? Wouldn't we all be in the wedding industry if it was overnight? Yeah, so I was ready to move on. I didn't really know where I was going. I knew I just wanted to be in design. And I had a few graphics jobs, and I had a bit of savings. So I had about enough savings I worked out to keep the bills paid for about 5 months. So I knew I had 5 months to make it work. And, if it didn't work, I'd run out of money and I'd have to work in Tesco stacking shelves or something. But I had a couple of regular graphics clients, but not enough to pay any bills. No weddings on the cards because I'd just done friends' weddings. And I did a bit of freelancing, but then I took the bull by the horns, probably a bit naively, and booked a stand at the National Wedding Show back in the days of Earl's Court.
Yeah.
I've got a long history with Earl's Court. And yeah, maybe with like 3 weddings that I'd done for friends, had a stand there, and yeah, like looking back, I was so naive to the world of weddings. I had no idea. I had no connections, no, I'd been to a couple of weddings, but I didn't really know what was involved. And I certainly didn't have any idea what luxury weddings were, or even wedding venues. Like, I'd done no research. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do some wedding stationery. Um, so that was kind of my in, and that went really well. And I got a load of bookings, and I got great feedback. And I wasn't quite sure, like I hadn't really thought about where I wanted to be, but I knew it wasn't going to be overnight, because obviously weddings, like I wasn't doing weddings for the next week, I was doing weddings for next year and the year after. So I knew it wasn't going to be overnight. My website was awful. It had one picture on it and an email, and that was it. And actually, like, even 10 years on, I still feel like I'm on that journey. Like, it's going to be 10 years next Christmas since I started working with weddings, and I've had 2 kids, and I've had maternity leave and a pandemic, and I feel like I'm only just kind of getting to where I want to be, or I feel like I'm only just learning where in the weddings world is possible and where I want to be, because I just had no idea what was there. And I think we don't really ever make it, and once you feel like you've made it, surely it's downhill, right?
You know what? It's such a good talking point, this one, because I don't know that I've ever met anyone actually in any industry who is like, yeah, I've fully fledged made it. Because the perception of what making it is wildly different to the actual reality, like the practice of it. And that is wildly different to how it feels inside. So when you think about making it, a lot of people associate money with it. Like, when I've made it, I'll buy myself a new car, or whatever's important to you. Yeah. Or when I've made it, I'll have the confidence to do all of these things. And then, of course, you get to that shelf of where you punted it, and then there's just something else. You're chasing something else, which is why I talk so much about, like, connecting with the feeling instead of the thing, because otherwise you get there and sometimes it's a bit of a letdown.
Yeah, exactly.
I felt like that actually when I left my full-time job. I had everything hinged on this leaving my full-time job. I put so much weight on leaving my full-time job. And yes, it was really emotional and felt really blooming good to walk back in and go, here's my laptop that I'm never going to have to open. Here's my mobile phone that I'm never going to have to answer ever again. And there was a rush of, like, I sat on a train and cried. But actually, I thought that was like the pinnacle, and it was just the beginning.
Yeah.
And there's so much behind the scenes of all of this. I feel like that could be a podcast episode in itself, couldn't it?
Write it down quick.
Yeah, you'll have to come back. What I'd love to talk to you about, and we've obviously had some communication on this before this episode, what I'd love to talk to you about is this concept of charging your worth. Because, I mean, I've talked about it. I've done podcast episodes on this. I've done webinars on this. And I don't know that we'll ever know the answer to what charging your worth looks and feels like it. But I think it's a really important discussion point.
Yeah.
What does it even mean to you? When I say, Freya, you should be charging your worth, what does that mean to you?
No, if I had £1 for everyone that ever said that to me, I would be where I want to be. It means a lot. It does mean a lot. And people will try and tell you that if you do what you love, it doesn't matter how much you get paid, and, throw in a mortgage, 2 kids, 2 self-employed parents, because my husband's self-employed as well. We've got designer tastes, we're from design backgrounds. It doesn't get you very far if, worth, not charging your worth. So it counts for a lot. And I think also you'll never really feel truly appreciated or valued if you're not charging enough.
Yeah.
So coming from the corporate design world, where I was charged out at a premium day rate, I kind of knew what was possible in the design world, and actually it's not really any different in the weddings. I'm still doing design, and I'm still charging for my talent and expertise, and I struggled for years with working out what I needed to charge. Um, because, well, like we were saying, our journeys into the wedding industry, like I don't, or I didn't, kind of treat myself as a professional. Like I've not done a degree in weddings. Like, I hadn't been to many, and I think a lot of us are like that in the wedding industry. We kind of get in there and we're like, oh, am I qualified to be telling people about this? And that's where I think a slight lack of confidence and niggling in the back of your head. You need to get that out, because charging your worth makes your job worth it, really. Worth and worth.
Yeah, you're so right.
Yeah.
I love that you've drawn that analogy from like the corporate world, though, because there's a misconception amongst consumers that when you put the word wedding in it, people like drives me crazy when I hear people say that. But also, like with the world of corporate, I would say that is true. Like when you're a business selling to a business, and it's a corporate concept, I feel like that it's almost like you're given more permission or stronger permission to put like a premium price on it. So it's very interesting that you've been through that situation where you were actually the premium goods, and then you're then isolated and put out on your own, and suddenly it feels very different.
Yeah, exactly. And like you say, people think that you're adding cost on, but if you add up the amount, like I sometimes work with my couples for like 2 years before their wedding, and they'll like send me messages at the weekends, and I'll call them every couple of months to have a catch up on where they are. And that might be half an hour every couple of months for 2 years. That's a day's work.
Yeah.
But if you don't factor that in, and you're always doing that, you're missing out on, how many weddings have I got on at the moment? Like, say a wedding a month, 12 weddings.
Yeah.
That's 12 days. That's half a month that you're not charging out. So you have to make sure that you're, collecting all these little nuggets that you spend on their days and add it to your cost. Because, what's the point if you, I'm not doing this as a hobby.
Yeah.
I'm doing this to pay for my holidays, my kids' education, a new house, a new car, If I was just doing this as a hobby, what's the point, really? I might as well just do some gardening.
Do you think it's a case of you have to go through that process of like undercharging to know how that feels, to be able to charge the premium rate?
I don't think so. I know I probably did, but I don't think you have to. And I think, I know we might talk about this later, but it's all about working out, it's getting a business head on. Like I'm not from a business background, so it's getting that business head on and working out how much time you spend, how much your bills are, and how much you actually need to charge. And I didn't do that. I very much was, I'm being successful, but I wasn't being successful. I was doing it, and I didn't know where I was going. And I think that's where, if people have worked out where they're going and what they're aiming for, I think that would probably, be a good place to start, really.
Yeah. So from a practical perspective then, is step number 1 doing the maths, would you say? So actually, step 1 for me was probably fairly recent. It was probably a couple of years ago. I did your 10-year challenge, and it was a bit of a light bulb moment. And like I said, I'd never really thought about where I was going. I was just kind of doing it, plodding along. And I've got my 10-year challenge brainstorm stuck up by my desk. And it kind of tells me where I want to be, what I want my life to look like. Like, one of the comments on there is, have the perfect Christmas decorations, buy a new sofa. Like, there are things like that on there. Shop in Waitrose and not feel guilty, like that kind of thing. And I'm like, that's where I want to be. I want to shop in Waitrose and spend 70 quid on a night's meal and not worry about it. And so from there, I think I did that first. And then from there, I worked out to make the profit to have that lifestyle.
I worked out my second step was physically looking at how much work I could take on.
Yeah.
Whilst keeping, like, I have Fridays off with the kids. I always have done. We always meet up with the NCT crew, so Fridays I have off. So making sure that I'm not working every evening. Like, it's impossible not to work every evening, but with 2 small kids, I can't work weekends. I'm with them, and then I pick them up at 3 most days. So kind of working out what I can fit into the time I've got available.
Yeah.
And then working out how much I need to charge for that. And obviously, the third point is being brave enough to understand that you are worth it.
Yeah.
Like, because I think 10 years ago, I wouldn't have gone, oh yeah, I need to charge £1,000 as a minimum to make what I want. I'd be like, no one's going to pay that. Like, who would do that? I've only done 3 weddings. But actually, you know, I probably am worth it, and the work I do is worth it. So just do it. Be brave enough to do it.
What was the tipping point, though, for you? Like, what happened, or how did you shift your perception of your business in order for you to think that way?
It was probably having the children, if I'm honest. It made me think about the future and savings, because I think I've always worked for small design consultancies, and they've not offered pensions because they've not been big enough. So there's never been like a savings pot. And I think me and my husband are kind of looking at it. We were like, oh, we've got to start saving. We were like, well, how are we going to do that? We're both self-employed. Like, that doesn't go hand in hand, does it? And then I joined the Wedding Business Club, and that helped me put my business hat on. Like, because there are so many times where me and Steve sit down and we're like, oh, it doesn't tally up. One of us has to get a job.
Yeah.
And my response every time is, but I have a job.
Yeah.
This is my job. I don't want to go and work for a local company in Oxford doing their design briefs. I want to get the design briefs myself and be in control of it. And that kind of made me really want to be successful.
Yeah.
And do it and make something of it. Like, why shouldn't I be making money? Why does someone else deserve it? Yeah. You know, why can't I do that?
So from there, then, like, you go from this wearing my business hat, you're then tipping over into the mindset work that's required, which is probably in reality 90% of it, right? Having the courage or being brave or just doing it, that all falls under mindset for me. So once you've done your numbers, you've got to where it looks good on paper. It still feels scary. What about your mindset? What steps have you taken that have enabled you to go, no, I am worth that. I will charge the money I want to charge.
Yeah. So a lot of this is down to you, Faye, actually.
Oh, dear.
So until I joined your Wedding Business Club, I'd never really heard of mindset. I'd never done any, inward, I suppose it's inward looking at what you're doing. I thought it was all a bit airy-fairy. I think the first month I joined, you did a breath work session, and I was like, what? What is she on about? And I don't meditate, and I don't do things like that usually, but I have things that calm me down, and I don't think of it as kind of as that. But you do have to have the right mindset. And one of my husband's favourite quotes, I keep on bringing him up, but he's is remember you're the prize.
Yes.
Really corny, but it's true. Like, our couples aren't professionals in the wedding industry, or they're not usually.
Not usually.
And so they're looking to us to guide them on their wedding journey. So yeah, you need to get those little gremlins out that you're not good enough, because you are, and you've dedicated your life and your time into working in this industry. Yeah. So the moment from they're on quiet, they're looking to you who will, even if you've done 3 weddings, have more experience than them.
Without a shadow of a doubt. Yeah.
And yeah, and coming back to positivity, I never really actively thought about the power of positivity. If you surround yourself with people, like we've all probably been there, there's always one person that's always got a negative response, like to anything, even if it's a positive thing. They're like, oh yeah, but, and you're like, oh God, come on, let's just have some champagne and celebrate,
Yeah.
Let's just find something good to celebrate. And I think if you're positive, you will attract positive people.
Yeah.
And you'll have a better time. So being positive, it brings your whole attitude towards things up.
Yeah.
And obviously that helps with believing in yourself and that kind of thing. It's taken me a long time to be proud of what I do, actually. When I first started doing wedding stationery, I was almost embarrassed to say that I was a wedding stationer, because I'd gone from that, like, head of branding at a design consultancy to, oh, I do wedding stationery.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, isn't that sweet?
Yes, yes.
And then you kind of look at what they're imagining in their heads and what I'm delivering to my clients, and I'm like, actually, what I do is on a whole different level to what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
And it's awesome, and I get to work in my garden, and I get to finish early, and I play with the kids, and I have Fridays off.
Yeah.
I work with excited couples who are happy every day, and I work with amazing suppliers. And you know what? Why would I not do that?
Dreamboat. Absolute dreamboat. I think for me, because actually, you and I share quite a lot of similarities in terms of, working in our garden, the 2 kids, we take Fridays off. I think for me personally, like a lot of my development in terms of charging what I wanted to charge, not just what I needed to charge, but what I wanted to charge for my work, and tapping into the confidence and believing that I was worth it, was giving up caring what other people thought of me. And I think that's my headline for like charging what I believed I was worth, was giving up this addiction, which I think I was addicted to caring what other people thought, because I'm an empath. If there's one person in a room that has like angsty energy, I feel it like a stab in the eyeball, and I'll take it on and I'll carry it. And I had to really work so hard to stop caring about that anymore.
And the problem is, it sounds really big-headed, doesn't it? You're like, oh, I'm being really selfish, and I'm coming across as quite an arrogant person. But you've got to have that belief, because otherwise you're never going to get up there.
Yeah, the way I remember it being is like, I was trudging through life and business and all the rest of it, and like bad energy or like judgment would stick to me like a magnet. And there's only so much trudging you can do when all of that is stuck to you, because you're trying to build a business or have kids or whatever it might be with all of this baggage, and it's so heavy. And of course I care what people think of me. I'd like to say I don't would be really remiss. Of course, I want people to think I've got good energy and that I'm fun and that I know my craft. I want people to respect me for that. Don't get me wrong. But adopting people's limiting beliefs of me only made mine worse. And you get to a point, and I don't know if it's an age thing. I don't think it is. You get to a point where it's just exhausting to be carrying around all of that as well. Yeah. So I went through a bit of a shed of that, and I think that really helped me.
Yeah, I agree completely agree with all of that.
That isn't to say that putting up prices is not scary, because it is, right? It's scary.
Yeah.
What's your process? What do you go through when you've got to raise?
It's a scary process. It's scary. In fact, I put my prices up last week.
Oh, yay! Good time.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, looking back on the weddings 10 years ago, like, gosh, they got a good deal.
Yeah.
You know, I was looking at some of my old work and I was like, there's a porcelain invitation that my dad handmade out of porcelain. Steve made wooden boxes, and I charged them like 500 quid. But I was like, but I want to do it because it'll be amazing and they'll have amazing invitations. I didn't make any profit on that.
But they loved you.
Yeah, they were like, this is great, but they didn't, and like they didn't fully understand what they were getting. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of what I do now is trying to help people understand that they're getting a certain, like, my customer experience journey has grown quite a lot. So I've got like set templates that I use for emails, of following people up. I've got like you've got your automatic sales machine, haven't you? So I've got something similar to that where I kind of make sure I follow people up properly. So it's not just my design time, it's everything else that goes into it. And yeah, putting prices up can be scary. It's I try and review it every year. I try not to think about it all the time because it can bog you down. But there's a couple of things this year that changed it. So I'm recommended by a few venues who, I'm not going to get into an argument about it. Some of them charge a commission. So every job I get, I pay them 10%.
Yeah.
And for some venues that might not be worth it, but these venues are giving me a lot of work and I like working with them and it is worth it. So I've got to factor that 10% into my costs.
Yeah.
And also your goals change. Like I've got my 10-year plan. I'm always adding things on it and crossing things off it. And, you know, your house, you know, energy bills have gone up. I've got to factor that in. So, just always reviewing that and making sure that you're giving yourself enough to buy that bottle of champagne to celebrate something and not worrying about it or going to Waitrose every now and then. You know, what's the worst that can happen? A client's going to go, oh, you're too expensive, sorry. Oh, all right.
I think this is the thing.
You don't appreciate my work, not appreciate my work, but you don't, it's not in your ballpark. That's fine. Someone else will. I'll be in someone else's budget. So
it's like the old saying, which I really don't like, but everyone's got a price, and it's true. And I think that the faster, as wedding business owners, the faster we make peace with the fact that everyone's got a price, we can all just crack on and get on with what we're trying to do. I have a price as a supplier. My customer has a price as an expectation. And if you can find that sweet spot where the exchange of value works for both parties and there is a mutual respect, beautiful. If there's not, you're not the right people for each other.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter. You're not going to be everyone's person. And you don't have to be. It doesn't matter. There's a million other people that would be the right person.
Yeah. Freya, you know I'm a bit of a geek on these things. I worked out the percentage of the UK wedding market that I needed to book.
Oh my God.
I must dig this out. I did this years ago. And I found out how many people get married in the UK. This is going back like 5 or 6 years. And I knew I wanted to book, I don't know, 30 weddings, whatever. Yeah. And I did the numbers on it. And it's like 0.0000001%. I was like,
everyone getting married, yeah.
That is not much, because in my corporate sales days, I was looking for a 50% market share. I can handle 0.00001.
Yeah. And again, that takes you back to finding your target audience, because they'll have a certain kind of type that you can target.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, there's post-pandemic, it's like post-recession, there will be people who are tempted by joining our amazing industry, and I always say, you know, there's enough space for everyone. But what advice would you give to someone who's listening to this podcast and who is like right at the beginning?
Probably not acting like me, but don't be shy.
Yeah.
Like, we were all newbies once. Like, we were all starting out somewhere with that first wedding. We've all been there. And whether some suppliers choose to be kind and share their knowledge with you or not, like we've all had people we've reached out to and been completely blanked before. But then there's a whole load of us that will happily share our experiences and help you along your way. Like, it's such a lovely industry to be in, so don't be shy and ask questions. Join clubs, the Wedding Business Club, contact the venues, message someone you look up to, like just get yourself in there, because it's taken me 10 years, honestly it's taken me nearly 10 years to work out that a successful wedding is all about the collaboration between everyone. It's you and your couple, but it's you and the florist, and it's you and the photographer, and it's you and the planner. And if everyone knows each other and they're having fun, that wedding is going to be blooming amazing. So making those little connections and networking is such a crass term, but just reaching out to other people and getting yourself known, asking questions and then believing in yourself. Like that's what we've been talking about. Believe in yourself, because that's what you want to be doing. Work out your why and work out why you're doing it, and just be kind to everyone. No one's ever going to get anywhere by saying no. Just be kind to people and build up that community over competition feeling. I think that's so important. I've met so many great people in the last couple of years because I've put myself out there, because I've changed that mindset to be proud and to shout about what I do. And therefore I've met so many other people that share that kind of mindset, I guess.
Do you think that that's the thing that's changed your business the most, is getting yourself out there and building connections?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, ultimately. Reaching out to the photographers and the planners that have been working on the weddings that I've been at, contacting them before and after, getting reviews, building up relationships with the venues that I feel really resonate with my work. That's helped a lot. So finding out kind of who your target is and where they get married and what they want and what they like. And if that works with what you're excited by, then it's a win-win, really, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Getting business savvy. That was a good one.
So true. So true.
On my business hat, I'm a business owner. I'm not just a designer. I'm a business owner. I've got 2 businesses, and my husband's. I have to do my husband's accounts as well. So, I hated maths at school, and now I'm a lover of a spreadsheet. I know.
Yay!
I've got spreadsheets everywhere.
Oh,
the work plan. I've got my job plan, my projections, my accounts.
Stop it. This is music to my ears.
Get a spreadsheet on the go. What else has changed? What I've done this year, I started working. I don't know if you'd need this from the get-go as a startup business, but I have just started working with another lovely wedding business club member, Harriet Flather, on my social media. So that has changed my entire perception around social media. Honestly, I used to spend hours scrolling and worrying that I wasn't posting, or I wasn't posting the right thing, or I've missed something, or someone else has posted something that I was going to post, and now it's all but she has kind of given me this organisation of social media. Amazing. And I'm no longer worried about it. I don't sit there when I'm getting my daughter to sleep at night going, oh, I've got to go to sleep, I've got to put a post out on Instagram, like it's done for me. I've done it already. I did it 2 weeks ago. It's done.
The power of outsourcing is huge.
So that's the first thing I've outsourced properly, apart from my accountant, who I've always had. I outsource printing and stuff like that. But Harriet, if you need social media help, Harriet's your go. I know there's a few.
He was on a few weeks ago, actually. So that's
You've got the best on this time, Kate. And networking, really. That's it, I think.
Amazing. thank you so much. It's been so lovely to talk to you. I love spending time with you. You're a really important member of the club. Everyone knows who you are. So thank
Probably
you.
a bit too vocal sometimes.
My last question is, tell us about your experience of being in the club.
Oh, it's amazing. It's really changed. Like, apart from, like I said, putting my business hat on, it's changed my perception of um, really how I live my life. Because we've always been very much a work to live kind of family mentality, which is probably why we weren't really going anywhere. We were like, yeah, but we want to live our lives, and we've made some money, let's spend it. And joining the club and having that kind of business side of things, the support on that has really opened my mind to what's possible and in running a business and getting the business side of things up. But also it's like I work by myself most of the time. I'm here at the end of the garden. I live on a row of 12 houses in the middle of nowhere. Like, I overlook the Ridgeway in Chiltern. I don't see many people on a daily basis. And on a Wednesday, on your Q&A, I just put it on, even if I'm not watching it. I have it on in the background and I'm working, and it's like having a little secret kind of tribe of colleagues. And then you can pop in and say, oh, I've got a question. And you've got, 300-400 people that either know the answer or don't, but they're all there supporting you. And I think it's really rare to get that, even if you've got a desk job for another company. There's always that kind of competition of But in the Wedding Business Club, it's all just supporting each other, and there's nowhere else like it. Like, it's incredible. It's a testament to you, really, because I know it wasn't something you aimed to do in your life, but it makes such a difference to people, especially when we COVID, when we didn't see anybody. Like, it was such a lovely thing to share experiences and keep the positivity going, really.
Oh, thank you, Freya. I love, how much I love being the captain of our ship, and I continue to be amazed that somehow we just attract the best people. It's so open. People are happy to share. People lift each other up. When you're having a bad day, people rally around, and I am eternally grateful for all of our members. So
even at wedding, I've done quite a few wedding shows, but you wouldn't go and talk to the other stationers because you'd be like, oh, they're competition. They don't want to know who I am, and even if they do, they'd be like, oh, I don't want to talk to her. But in the business club, I've got there's loads of them, like Simone, Granier, Lauren, Louise. There's so many wedding stationers, and we're all there to support each other. We all do different things. Like you said, there's so many people to go round, and we've all got our own little niche of where we're going. You won't get that anywhere else, I don't think.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Freya, and thank you for being my guest. I feel like I could talk to you all day, but thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your time and your knowledge. Eternally grateful. Thank you, Freya.
Thank you, me.